The Xbox summer changes have arrived, and ARM is doing better than expected. Happy Friday, friends. Good to be back in the saddle, if you will. Took like my usual summer kind of break from the podcast for 2 weeks or so. I was out of town or whatever, and like July is... Yeah, it's kind of like that period right after Christmas, right? There's nada going on, so I usually kind of just take a little break, and good to be back. Hopefully you had a wonderful week. Hopefully life's good. Summer's treating you well there, unless you're in the southern hemisphere, and hopefully the winter months are treating you well. There is a lot to talk about. There's new things here coming to the start menu. This is the native start menu is getting some new sort of filtering and sorting options in the all apps category, if that's sort of your jam. That will soon be coming here. I'm guessing maybe 24H2. I don't really know. Maybe not until the next one, because we kind of already see 24H2 on ARM devices. But this sort of sorting functionality is not there. So keep your eyes and ears open for that sort of thing. Also, keeping your eyes and ears open, the UK is going to be poking the Microsoft once again. They are looking at their hiring of Inflection AI employees. Microsoft's getting poked on a couple different sides about their AI stuff with the open AI, like what really is that relationship? The UK clearly looking into them, like acquire hiring things, and Microsoft has a lot of eyes on them because they're I think the second, maybe third most popular or most valuable company, because NVIDIA really shot up. Apple's somewhere up there. Microsoft's right there too. And so, doing anything of bringing outside companies inside is going to set off some alarm bells. Now, AI Designer, or I should say Microsoft Designer, now infused with AI technology, is generally available across all platforms. So if that has been something you've been waiting on, you can now go use that on any single platform at the end of the day. Things that I find interesting here, AMD is going to be launching their Zen 5 AI processors on July 31st. And so I'll be looking to see how these things perform. The benchmarks will always be interesting, especially given what's happening on the ARM side of the house, right? You can't ignore ARM every time there is a single device launch because, hey, it's not just Intel and AMD anymore. There's Qualcomm out there. And by the way, I continue to hear from sources inside Microsoft and adjacent to Microsoft that the ARM sales of devices are actually exceeding expectations. So it looks like Microsoft's ARM launch here, at least initially, is headed in the right direction, which is wonderful news for everybody because, hey, we would love more entrants or more competitors in the PC market to build better devices with all the goods that we all love, battery life and performance and all that stuff. And so it's good to see that ARM might finally be the time that ARM really is truly taking off. Other things super duper interesting on the tech side of the house. OpenAI has launched GPT 4.0, I think it's 4.0 mini or 4 Omega mini. So this is a model that is focused on efficiency and cost, and it's stupidly cheap, very, 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 very cheap, that I suspect a lot of services that were previously charging money for their GPT access will just make it free. I think Box has announced that, hey, as long as this turns out that the model is as good as GPT-4, then they'll probably be like, hey, we'll just use it for free. It doesn't really cost us that much. I think it's 16 cents per million tokens. To ask a question, I think it's 60 cents per million tokens on the reverse. That is a rounding error for most people, or for most companies, I should say, unless there's some massive volume, but this is going to be the big deal, I think, going forward, is they've reached a point where we know what AI models can do, and then getting that cost down is going to be a big differentiator for a lot of companies. And so that looks super de-duper interesting. Now, over on the gaming side, there's a lot going on the gaming side. I talked a lot on this podcast. We're going to see a lot of changes starting July 1st. That's just when Microsoft does things after the end of their fiscal year. So this is one of the more interesting ones. So NVIDIA's GeForce Now can now be utilized, quote unquote, natively through the Xbox website to stream games. So you're not only getting Xbox Cloud Gaming, you've also got the NVIDIA option. And my brain is struggling to remember if this was part of some sort of agreement with, their Activision deal. But either way, this really elevates NVIDIA's GeForce Now, one as a premier solution through Xbox. And it makes you wonder, I think the natural question everybody should be asking here is hey, if you can do this on their website, when's it coming to the console? Because GeForce Now has a different catalog of games than Xbox does, and so it opens up more things. Now, granted, GeForce Now is not, I shouldn't say isn't free. There is a free tier, if you will, but most people probably end up paying somewhere between $9. I think the top end's at $20 per month. And it gives you higher resolution than what Microsoft is offering. So it's a good thing from the consumer perspective, and NVIDIA is obviously loving this because, right, that's more exposure to their stuff. But either way, I find that one super interesting that they are kind of getting becoming bedfellows with GeForce Now. That is a direct competitor to the cloud stuff. So if you weren't sure that this isn't your grandfather's Xbox anymore, not that it ever really was, but whatever, the new Deadpool controller is very bodacious, if you will. I think this is hilarious. I'm actually really happy they did this because it's funny. They're getting a ton of press coverage for it. For people who are on the audio-only side, which I got to bring a question up about that audio side I keep forgetting to do. This is the Deadpool controller, and the backside is a butt. Like, backside's a butt. And so it has been, I wouldn't say exclusively confirmed, it has been confirmed that the backside is firm, not squishy, for those who need those sorts of details. But either way, I think it's hilarious. Unfortunately, it's, again, a limited edition. There's actually a console that goes with this, but the controller is getting all the hype. And it's a giveaway. You can't go to the store and buy this. Although I suspect if you could, they would sell a lot of them, just like that Bluey console that they gave away that they never made and put in Target or something like that would have sold a ton to kids, including my daughter would probably want something like that. Also super duper interesting on the Xbox side is the console-less bundle, if you will. Speaking of cloud streaming, during Amazon Prime Day, which whatever, this will live longer than Prime Day, there's a new bundle with an Xbox controller, a Fire Stick, and some time for Xbox Cloud Gaming, a coupon or whatever, a gift card. We should say a credit. I mean, if you're paying for it, it doesn't really matter. Either way, the interesting thing here is, right, there's no console, right? It's all cloud gaming. It's a cloud gaming bundle, which is something we actually expected Microsoft to do with their own device. Remember, was it the Keystone, the streaming only? But this is effectively what we were expecting them to do, and they're now doing it with Amazon, which, candidly, I think is a better partnership and a better model for Microsoft because there's really not any risk. The Fire Sticks are going to be made regardless. Their controllers are going to be made, and like gift cards or whatever are just a thing that always exists too. So it's just putting these things together, and it makes sense rather than having to spin up your own piece of plastic and absorb all of those costs at the end of the day. Speaking of your grandfather's Xbox, even though he probably never had one, Microsoft brought a new dashboard background. It's the Blades background, but it's not the Blades. It's just a visual thing. It's not like when we say you got a Blades dashboard, you're thinking like actual blades that move left and right, and that's where the content is hidden and whatever. No, this is literally just a Blades JPEG or whatever. I guess it is animated, so it's not a JPEG in the background. But either way, a little bit of nostalgia. I don't think it looks great personally, like especially if you're on the video side, because all your titles like bleed over the edges of the blades themselves. And so they would have had to have made them more narrow, and it wouldn't have looked authentic. And I don't know. It's not for me. There's some better ones out there, especially some better retro ones from Microsoft itself at the end of the day. Other things happening. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 will be hitting early access, I should say beta access. And the nice thing is, for the first time, I believe, as an Xbox customer or a fan or whatever, at least for as long as I can remember, I'm sure maybe there might be the early days, but whatever, you're going to get day and date access to the beta as your PlayStation brethren or sisterin or whatever. There's no PlayStation early access to the beta. Everybody gets it at the same time, as long as you either pre-ordered it or have Game Pass. And so the nice thing is, if you have Game Pass, which I think a lot of people listening to this do, you'll be able to play that at the same time. The other big news dropping out here this week is that Paramount Plus has canceled the Halo series after 2 seasons. This is a pretty big deal because Halo series came in with triumph, and it was going to be the next big thing, and it was going to be well done, and it met very mixed reviews. We'll just say very mixed reviews, and we'll leave it at that, depending on where you were. Now, it's important to note that Paramount Plus has canceled renewing. The series is technically still alive, and they actually, I believe the producer said, hey, we're going to try to find another platform for the next series, but as of right now, it will not be on Paramount Plus. They are passing on the opportunity to pay money and basically, I'm guessing, fund another season. I don't think that they filmed another season yet. I could be wrong on that, but I would imagine they're not going to film another season unless they have funding, unless they're just shopping that around, which I guess I could be wrong. Either way, that is a big deal on the Halo side, which has seen a lot of blows over the years, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like this is a blessing in disguise, right? I try to find the silver lining to all this. It's like, okay, the series is over, the Halo Infinite stuff has launched, and we're just kind of moving on to the next thing and letting Halo just be its thing for a while. So there you go. There you go, my friends. Questions of the week. Always my favorite part. Been a few weeks. Got a few questions in the hopper. Before we do the questions, by the way, I need to figure something out. So people on the audio, this potentially kind of impacts you, but if I do it right, or it may not impact you at all, I need to find a new hosting platform. I had been using SoundCloud, but it's like 150 or another $175 for the year for hosting. And that's a lot of dollar dues. When I started doing it, it was like, I think 59 for the year. And so it's getting to the range where it's like, okay, so if anybody out there knows a podcasting platform, all I need is the audio. They're real small files, so I can have an RSS feed, and then I should be able to go through and update a bunch of RSS feeds and make it hopefully painless on the transition. But I got to figure that out because I don't really want to pay that much money to host, I don't know, maybe 50 MP3s that are probably 8 megs each. It just feels like there should be a better way. Anyways, on to the question of the week. So, Dave says, hey, Brad, long time, no questions. Welcome back to the club, Dave. With the price increases coming to the Xbox Game Pass in September, how does this impact your analysis from May about how Xbox will recoup upfront revenue lost paying Call of Duty Black Ops 6 on Game Pass on day one? So I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but here's the easy math that you can go do. You can go figure out whatever number I said, figure out the percentage increase of pricing, because it would go from 18 to 20 or whatever. It's like roughly like a 20% increase, 15%, and that would just reduce the number by that same percentage at the end of the day. It will certainly make it easier, because my suspicion here is that, yes, Microsoft increased the price, but I don't think they're going to see a lot of churn from it. I think $20 is still a fair value for all the Call of Duty content. Let me rephrase that. For me, as somebody who probably would have paid $70 for a Call of Duty game, and I play, I would say 3 to 4 titles in Game Pass regularly, and I try other ones on occasion, it's still a good value. Now, the question becomes, Brad, when does it not become a good value for you? You can't go, there's two factors here. There's the good value, right? The good value, which is $20. And then there's the annoying aspect. Like, what is an annoying amount of money every month to be playing? I don't want Microsoft to hear this, but $29 is probably about where I'd be like, that's not happy. That's not Higa, if you get that reference, at the end of the day. And so we'll see. I am going to continue to pay for Game Pass. I am continuing to get my value out of it. And when I feel that I don't, then I shall give it the cancel. Tourniquet says, do you have any insights? What's going on with the Windows division? What's their plan for Windows vNext 2025? So 2025, I don't know if we'll get a Windows vNext. Now that could mean, what would be 25H2, 25H1, that sort of thing. I think it's a safe bet to say that Microsoft will continue to find ways to infuse the Copilot experience into these AI PCs that we are now seeing, right? There's like these two weird classes of AI PCs, right? There's the Copilot Plus PCs, which are the ARM devices, and then there's these AI PCs, which aren't, I believe, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they're technically, per like the spec sheet, not Copilot Plus PCs. They're just AI PCs, which is just the most Microsoft thing ever, like the new AMD chips at the end of the day. Now, that might change in 2025. I'm not sure how that will change. But at the end of the day, I still think we will get a Windows 12 at some point. And Tourniquet goes on to talk about, hey, there were these definitive leaders. We had Panos, we had Sinofsky, we had Meyerson, and those eras were real chunky and defined about what was going on. And it feels like right now, and I cannot remember his name, Pavan, he is running Windows at this point, and we haven't really seen what this new era is going to look like. And that is sort of the point here. We will find out. I don't have any great insight as of right now about how things are going to change under this, because again, Windows is a big ship. It is a cruise liner. It's not quite Carnival size cruise ship, but it's a big ship. And so like, if you come in today and say like, we're going to change things, you're probably looking at least 18 months for like that, you say, this is what we're going to implement. or this is how we're going to change things, whatever that change is going to be. And then you have to plan out how do we implement that change thing. And then you have to test that thing. And then you have to ship that thing. And so that's a long cycle when you have a billion plus customers running Windows. And so it's not something that I would expect to happen very quickly. Hopefully, we'll start to see some tea leaves and blog posts about how things are going to change. Build was a little too early, but I think it's safe to say more AI and probably more cross promotion, which hurts just a little bit to say. Digi32 says, "Hey Brad, how come we don't see more Xbox cloud gaming push on the consoles? One of the great things we thought we were going to see is, hey, click game, play game, and not have to worry about anything else." So I believe some of it's there. If I remember correctly, I thought you could go into the store and then like sample games using cloud gaming, because I'm pretty sure I have done that. However, if you have a console, I will tell you categorically, it is still better to just download the games. And Microsoft, I get like this weird vibe from Microsoft when it comes to cloud gaming, because I think a lot of their cloud assets, right, were sucked up by the AI team. And so the growth that they were expecting from doing the cloud stuff doesn't really feel like it's materialized in a massive way. I'm not saying it's bad that they're going to abandon it, but it just doesn't feel like it's the priority. Even with that reshuffling of all of the Xbox SKUs, the price going up, it still makes sense, I guess, on PC a little bit, but the standalone stuff just doesn't really feel like the whole story has come together on the Microsoft side. Yes, they have the hardware and the games, but the experience seems like it hasn't been top notch. Now, someone is absolutely going to write in and say, Brad, but it's great for me. I use it every week. And I have zero doubt that people do use this very religiously, once or twice a week or whatever. For certain titles, it's absolutely fine, but it's not the perfect solution that solves all title scenarios, if that makes sense. So, there's another one. Stephen J says, Brad, are you ever going to give up Notion and go to Loops again? Or isn't it Loop? Microsoft Loop again. Maybe it's called Loops. I can never remember. As of right now, I'm pretty locked into Notion. They just came out with a great calendar app, or they purchased a calendar app. I'm waiting, fingers crossed, that Notion comes out with a good email app, which I think they've acquired some skeleton remains of an email app. They have a calendar app. And so if right now it works with Google only, which is frustrating, but I'm hoping that they can get that solved where they have an Office 365 and an email app and a calendar app. And that's what I'm holding out for. Loop is fine. If I was starting from scratch again, I think I could tell anybody with a high degree of confidence that you'd be fine on Microsoft Loop. I just like Notion. So that's kind of, I've been with it for a few years, tried to go over, but it was Loop is fine, but Notion is where I'm familiar with. So there you go. That wraps it up for this week, friends. Hopefully you all had a wonderful, I hope you all had a wonderful week. And we should be back here next time. As always, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because then the BS on this podcast is me.